There we go.
You see over my shoulder here?
What is that?
Tiffany made a sign.
That looks amazing.
It's, I can't believe how close she got. She did that freehand.
It looks amazing.
It looks identical.
Yeah,
She just had the little sticker, and she was going back and forth.
I'm very jealous. We got to work on our backdrop. You've got yours all figured out.
We're sort of building a studio.
I like it.
Not really, but there's some cool backdrops. It'll get more impressive.
Okay. All right, what do you say we vlog? We have a podcast.
Let's do it. Today is September 15th, and it's a Sunday. And that means it's a Ponderland Sunday. Time to do a Ponderland podcast.
That does sound like the day that we do podcasts.
Wait, I wonder if we do have a traditional day, even if is that Diet Coke? Because if it is...
It is Diet Coke. Not even kidding.
By the way, Ponderland Podcast, this episode and every episode beyond this will be sponsored by Diet Coke.
Nope.
It's the real thing.
Well, that is probably true, but we're not sponsored by Diet Coke.
Yet. But, that's the dream. The first dream, I don't know if we should rank them, but the first dream is like actually get invited to like Disney media events, like be in that level. Second dream, maybe at the same tier, get that Diet Coke sponsorship.
I mean, if we're being totally real about it, the Diet Coke sponsorship would be like the thing. That would be a game changer for Happy Place Explorers.
That's somebody who's watching has connections, who probably has some connections. Come on, look at our faces. We are bubbly. We are no calories, no sugar. We represent that. And we go down smooth because we're Happy Place Explorers.
I feel like you're
Comes
really
with the territory.
You're really selling the Diet Coke thing. Like, I'm buying it now. So I can't imagine what Diet Coke is thinking.
It's kind of more just the way I live my life.
Like a 0-calorie, fun-filled.
Just a zero sugar mentality. No sweetness. But,
sweet, but none of the weight that comes with it.
It's got the zesty, sort of spicy, goes down bubbly.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever
we should have stopped while we were ahead.
I was going to say, do you ever wonder if people are like, I subscribed because you were supposed to be a theme park vlog?
But somehow we always circle back to Diet Coke.
Yeah, maybe we need to add it. Just add it in the description. Be like, it's the Diet Coke adventure vlog.
Diet Coke. We could. They should have a... Well, you watched the vlog. There's no Diet Coke representation in the Coca-Cola or in what was Club Cool. That blew my mind because I feel like it's equally as popular.
Like there was never a Diet Coke thing in there, or no?
I don't know. It's all just sort of Coca-Cola merchandise. Was.
I guess that makes sense.
We went there the other day, and there's just a big wall around Founding Nations in that whole building. And I thought it was going to be just like a mess. Thought it was going to be completely how are they going to do this? And it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Okay. There are a lot of walls, but they're tall enough. There's lights on them. Well, you can navigate around.
When are they going to get construction equipment in there and completely?
That's the question. See, I thought it was going to be a long while away because the day I was recording, which was the day before it closed, even the Disney site was saying the Starbucks, which is right off of Club Cool, was going to be open till the end of November 23rd, which subsequently is the day Food and Wine ends. So I think they wanted to have Starbucks sort of there to take in all of that. And that's what it was when I was recording there and saying, hey, it's going to close. But not yet. And then it did close. So they may be going full steam, trying to get it done as quickly as possible.
Well, when is the execute? So, I mean, we can just dive right into that. So what we're talking about now are the big... I guess the only real revelation that came out of D23 was just how massive the Epcot overhaul is going to be.
And we knew they were going to be doing a big change, but everyone was sort of up in the air as to what that would look like. And so,
Mm-hmm.
the future world that we know is, is no more. And that makes sense because Future World has always sort of been couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
It's very Tomorrowland-esque.
Well, I think you really dove into it well in the Saying Goodbye to Club Cool video, because as you just walked around, you sort of immediately understand the scope of how it's literally everything. It is that entire, it's not just like a little corner that they're closing down. Like that whole area you're not going to recognize it at all. Like future generations of kids are going to be like, what was old Epcot?
There was a whole bit, and it's a huge, like, sturdy, thick, hurricane-proof building.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be something to be there when they start taking that thing down.
Mm-hmm. So very interesting.
And that's what it looks like. It's all going to be just sort of, you look at the concept art, it's just, like garden space and water ways and whatnot. And that's going to be cool. I love the water features in Epcot, that you're just sort of going over those rivers and you got the lagoon. But it seems really open and like there's not as much, it's just like this meeting space almost.
Yeah.
But it is weird that that's just going to be going away. Mm-hmm. In lieu of World Celebration and World. So back up a little bit. Future World's going away, and it's becoming the neighborhoods, which World Nature, World Celebration, and the third one.
Is it World
Discovery?
Yeah.
Which is like
I could have said anything. All I said was World. Is it World? You're like, yeah, World Discovery. That's it. I'm like, yeah, I got you there.
World Boysenberry. Mm-hmm. What was the biggest thing that impressed you? D23 announced so many things, but if we just focus it down on Epcot, what about Epcot? Especially since you haven't been there as recently.
In a bit, yeah. It's been a while.
What is the most intriguing thing to you?
Well, I do. When you saw like the whole, like the concept art of how everything was going to be laid out, I think it's a thing that I'll like when I actually go, I won't like appreciate enough when I'm there. But from the concept art, the new not expo center, but their event center, like the big
festival,
3-story thing.
The festival center.
That looks ridiculous. Like, what is that going to look like when you're on the ground looking up at it?
Right. It's almost like you'll be able to see through it.
Yeah, that's what the concept art kind of looks
because
like.
Because it's open, then clear glass,
yeah,
and then just foliage and trees at the top.
It's not like a big building that's going to be in your way anymore. It's going to be like something that you can move through, right. And it's just like you're there. It's this massive structure that's there. Like, that's going to be. It's off to the side of Spaceship Earth, or is it behind it?
It's, you know how you're sort of going across a World Showcase.
Yeah.
You have sort of that little pathway. It'll be right before that. So right between that pathway and where the Imagination Pavilion is. And it's interesting because Epcot is so flat.
That's what I mean.
Like they have a lot of buildings and whatnot, but you can, if you get right behind, like Spaceship Earth and you get past the big Fountain of Nations, as soon as you're in Fountain of Nations, you can look all the way across and you can see the America Pavilion and, everything across the river. When that is taken away, you're going to just have a huge vantage point. And then you'll be able to get elevated and see it from...
Well, I imagine, do you think they'll make that a viewing area for fireworks when it's not festival season?
Oh, I would think that's going to be a very trafficked area. Mm-hmm. At least in some... There may be, like, sections. They may have, like, vacation club sections.
Oh, yeah.
And... Because there's, like, when they have food and wine or other Festival of the Arts, they have that building in the World Showcase, which presumably is going down to make room for the Mary Poppins mystery attraction.
Yeah, whatever it's going to be. That's the other surprise announcement. I mean, Moana was a surprise announcement, but Moana just seems like a fixture, which is fine. Like, that'll be a fun little thing. But Mary Poppins could potentially be, like, this massive addition to... Like, it won't be this huge thing, but even if it's a dark ride, that's still
It's almost like they were testing the waters to see how people would... It was interesting how vague they were with everything that they gave. And they just said, hey, here's Dick Van Dyke, we're dancing, and something Mary Poppins is coming this way. And it's like, I wonder if they were like seeing, well, because a big rumor I've heard is they're just going to put like a carousel back in that courtyard. And it's like, okay, it's something. Yeah. But You don't do a big announcement like that for a carousel.
Agreed.
And I think they were waiting to see how everybody would react. And if the crowd erupted and be like, a Mary Poppins attraction, they'll be like, okay, people are wanting this, and let's put our all into creating something interesting.
It is a very interesting time at Disney Imagineering because it does feel like just in general with the reaction to Galaxy's Edge and the execution of Galaxy's Edge, which it's undeniable how good it looks and how successfully we're at building this land. The concern is obviously, and early on we were part of the group that was like, oh wow, is like Disney kind of blow it and like Galaxy's Edge isn't working. But now I very much backtracked on that. I know attendance is down and things like that, but I definitely wouldn't call it a failure. I don't think that is ever should be a question. Like Galaxy's Edge,
there's a lot of factors at play.
Yeah, and so what I'm getting
Disney
at
has no control over.
Correct. And what I'm getting at is I think Disney Imagineering is in an interesting predicament where it is back to the points where like before it felt like Disney was unstoppable. I mean, they are financially as a company, they are unstoppable. As a theme park asset currently, it's kind of going back to those days where they aren't going to be like there isn't limitless budgets. Like they're going to start considering how much they're spending on new additions, and we're getting to a point where Tomorrowland, like when they were in Disneyland, when Tomorrowland and Rocket Rods and all that stuff was going to happen, that was supposed to be such a grand renovation of that area, and because of financial hardship, they cut it way down because everybody freaked out, and we are literally at that moment again. And it's like all this stuff that they probably had great plans for. How we were predicting that it was going to be a massive Tomorrowland announcement, like the full Tomorrowland refurb. I bet you like that's pushed back years now because they don't want to. Yeah, I honestly don't think Disneyland will have a massive renovation. I know everyone was like, oh, like Fantasyland's overdue for one, Disneyland's overdue for one. I think we're a full stop at Disneyland currently until they figure out what they're doing. Like Marvel Land will be the last major addition for a bit. And we might have a new ride sprinkled in there, here or there.
Yeah.
But I think the days of full renovation of Disneyland, in general, Disneyland Resort, has hit a standstill for the moment.
Yeah.
Because,
it'll be interesting the next, few months or next year, just seeing how everything... Because because that first phase of Marvel is supposed to open sometime next year.
Yes.
And they announced that other ride, which seems to be mostly indoor-based, kind of somewhat easy to go up. And so that'll probably happen fast. And I'm trying to think of other things. There's the Mickey ride coming to Toontown.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I can't think of any, as far as Disneyland is concerned.
Yeah. Well, there is a space issue, too. Whatever they decide to do next is going to shut down an area for a bit. So it's not like you'll be adding a space that will be uninterrupted and increase capacity. Whatever you do is going to close off some of the capacity of Disneyland. So I think that is something... I mean, that never bothered them, though. That was never the issue. Now it's more of... there's such... fan backlash almost into how things are handled. I mean, where this ultimately goes is, and we've talked about it off camera before, but you mentioned it. Disney has probably hit peak pricing. In fact, they've probably gone over peak pricing, and now we are at the point. Peak pricing might have been a couple years ago, and now we are at the point where unless it's probably just going to be incentives and deals all the time because they can't lower it. They can't backtrack the pricing ever. So it'll have to be things like what they did this summer, where it was like an AP member can bring a friend for $99, which is insane for a park hopper ticket.
Yeah. Well, how much you just did the Disneyland video, and it was $150 for
that was
the park hopper, right?
No, that was the one. It was $199 with the park hopper. That's peak summer. That's you're talking about. Middle of July,
the highest
early
it could
August.
Possibly
exactly.
have.
Yeah. With no incentives. Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, that's the only scenario where, when you look at how much the annual passes cost for Disneyland, it's ridiculous to begin with. Like, those are so expensive. But when you take into account the $199 each visit, all of a sudden it's like, oh, the annual pass is a steal.
Right.
It's like...
Yeah, same with the Disney World one. Every ticket, they're all different based on the park, but they're all over $100, no matter what. Plus $25 for parking.
Yeah.
It's like, we paid for our annual pass within the first week. Literally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You guys, especially the Florida resident deal, is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're a resident and you're coming from different parts of the state and you come for like a week.
Yeah.
Opt for the annual pass because it's ridiculous. But there are even some people who think the annual pass has gotten too high, too.
Well, it probably has. In general, the whole experience has gotten too expensive. Yeah. Like, I don't know when it shifted to... Because Disney was all about... Like, everyone joked about the food, right? It was like food prices were crazy, or like expensive, and souvenirs were expensive. And like, I thought that was how Disney was supposed to be making all of their money, was that kind of stuff.
Right.
But now they've made the ticket prices so expensive that, like... I mean, I've spent a little bit more than I would like at Galaxy's Edge. But besides that, though, I don't buy souvenirs as much as I normally would because the tickets are so expensive.
Right.
So, yeah, it's an interesting thing. Anyway, what I was getting at was the Mary Poppins attraction is going to be interesting because you're right. I think it is very much a wait-and-see environment. They know that they're doing something Mary Poppins is probably dependent on how successful certain areas are. Also, Epcot has so much money going into it. I don't know if they're going to be able to afford to do another major edition.
Well, here we are. Jurassic Park is Joey's favorite movie. They built an attraction of it. Mary Poppins is far and away my favorite movie. I love it so much. And it blows my mind that it's taken 50 plus years for even an inkling of some kind of attraction to be brought to a Disney park. Yeah. And so I see this announcement and I want it to be I want them to go all in. I want them to fire on every cylinder. Even if it's just like a simple 3-minute Fantasyland-esque dark ride. That would be phenomenal for me. But the carousel idea that I've heard thrown around, that's sort of, it is what it is. It's whatever. But seeing the effort that they're going to put at least into that, facade, you go in and at Cherry Tree Lane's right there, and the adventure, whatever it is supposed to start after you walk through the doors. And I'm already like so excited to even experience that. I hope there's a balance, because in that concept art they show the Emily Blunt Mary Poppins and the Lin-Manuel Miranda Jack lamplighter from the sequel, and it's like, well, Mary Poppins is Mary Poppins, but I hope there's at least a balance of the two in there, whatever it ends up looking like. But I'm like, build it fast. Build it fast, spare no expense. Let's get this thing going. I want to ride this, because nothing is going on back in that section of the UK.
Well,
Pavilion.
Correct. Yeah, the UK, you're right. But you do have that, like, Ratatouille is huge. That's a huge new ride in that back corner.
That's true.
And so...
It's on the other side of the gateway.
Okay.
It's a stone's throw. It's a small stone's throw. Smaller stone the farther it goes.
Well, we will see what awaits us, because it is.
And then just to tap off that, as far as Epcot announcements, very excited about everything, but the Spaceship Earth announcement is very intriguing as well, because it seems like it's not necessarily going to be an overhaul, but it's just going to be a retheming, a retooling of what Spaceship Earth is. And Spaceship Earth, you remember what Spaceship Earth?
Yeah, and as you go through, you sort of see all the different stages that we've taken to advance human learning.
It's like like technology and communication and whatnot. And so in this new frame, they're supposedly going to have a focus on storytelling.
Okay.
And so they say a lot of the stuff's going to stay the same, but a lot of stuff is going to be different. And you go through the like, we know that it's going to be changing, so we go on it every time we go now. But you go into that first scene, and if they're drawing the cave paintings and whatnot, and you go into the Greek place or wherever they're playing the instruments and reading the books. It's like, it feels like it could be a very easy shift from a communication history standpoint to a storytelling, kind of history standpoint. Yeah. I don't know. I'm very intrigued by what that could be. And people are already like screaming, no, they're going to put Disney characters in there.
Oh.
Which, it's like, whatever. It's a Disney theme park. And I've been thinking a lot about that. Like, everyone has been screaming like IPs and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's so against what Walt's original vision for Epcot was. It's like, yeah, it was. Epcot, the center of the theme park, is so against what the original vision of Walt Disney's Epcot was.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a living, functioning city and not a theme park. And so that original vision is only a semblance of what Walt Disney was thinking when he thought of Epcot Center. And so I'm all for incorporating, if it's done well.
I mean, we'll see. I don't know where I stand on that. But I'm not like anti it. It is concerning because wasn't one of the big, like, not big announcements, but the way that they phrased Epcot is it'll feel more like a Disney, like more Walt Disney. It'll feel more Disney.
More Disney.
Yeah, which is never good. I mean, it's good because it is a Disney park, like you said, but it is never a good sign that you will be getting original concepts. It'll be more probably Disney integrated things. Like, you'll feel more like the characters, like the big four, are more present.
Yeah.
In everything. So
it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
As we adopt the power of possibility. New Epcot slogan.
We'll jump over to a new topic. So, also between podcasts, Galaxies Edge opened in Florida, and you were there on opening day.
I was there. It was really nice, and then it was really crowded. So they said they were going to open the gates at 6 a.m. Mm-hmm. And so I got up at 4. I had no intention of getting there right at 4, or right to be there there when it opened. But apparently that's when the gates opened, and they started letting people into the park pretty shortly after that. So I parked just before 5. I was walking through Hollywood Studios right after 5, and I was in the land already. And so it was all sort of very surreal walking in there, because I was expecting at least another line or a place to wait, some kind of, hey, ribbon cutting, here's a little firework flare just to celebrate everything. And it wasn't. It was like it was open. So you just walked right through. And that is, take away any other feeling that I have about the land or the rest of the day or anything that happened. That moment, walking through the tunnel, and it was early morning. It was still dark out. Everything was lit up, and suddenly you're walking through, and you hear the spaceships start to rumble on the side, and you see the spires by the lights. That is one of the best, like, most magical Disney moments that I've ever had, because that is sort of the immersion that I was really hoping for. It just sort of washes over you as you walk through that tunnel and get in there.
Well, you can sort of hear it in your voice and see it on your face in the reveal.
I am in Galaxies Edge, and whoa, instantly this place has, like, come alive.
I don't know, like, I'm sure you, from a camera perspective, are filming yourself like, oh, like, I'll have a cool reaction. But, like, subtext-wise, you can see that you're like, there's just too much to take in.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be as powerful of a few steps as it ended up being.
I think there is something. I remember when we went on the first day at Disneyland out here. It was also crowded because we had that original mass that all went in. Mm-hmm. But the thing for us was that I wasn't as overwhelmed by the Falcon as I was just the entry into the land. It just felt so, like, new. So
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Now hearing you say that. Yeah. Seeing the Falcon was awesome.
Yeah.
It was really great. Yeah. And I think I still hold that moment higher than actually being inside the Falcon and doing the ride. But just seeing that in person is so cool. But literally like transported is the best way to say walking through that tunnel, because it's completely different from the other side. There's a lot of theatricality as you go through, and you start to hear the ambiance that they really push like heavily. And it was crowded, so I didn't really get to take in a lot of things that were happening. If it had been like more light in there, or lightly crowded, I mean, and I could actually see anything, I can only imagine how much more impactful that those first few minutes walking through would have been, because there's just so many like little details just sort of peppered all the way throughout the space.
Yeah. No, I think it's good. I mean, honestly, I would say, because you're right, you did a very good job. I thought your video did a great job kind of giving a real honest like look. You had the excitement of going to Galaxy's Edge for the first time, but also just like the reality of how everybody's vlogging it, everybody's a hype machine. I think this is an issue, honestly, with other vlogs, and I know we get a lot of criticism for it, but like, are other people afraid to like say their own opinion because they'll get dislikes on videos and like comments? Because I feel like everybody's like oh, like this is the greatest thing in the world, and like it totally like it is. We're never taking any credit away from Disney, but if you were watching a channel like you're watching our channel, wouldn't you be like more apt to want to have a conversation with us, not like be like so a good example of this is we just did a Disneyland vlog here for Halloween. And in that vlog, surprise, surprise, Michelle and I are not huge fans of Haunted Mansion Holiday. And there are biases with it. There's biases with it because, like, I love Haunted Mansion so much. It's my favorite theme park attraction. And I think that obviously plays into my enjoyment of Haunted. I obviously have a bias already against it. But I think it's, like, worth discussing. Like, I don't want to lie to you and be like...
Right.
Oh, it's so Haunted Mansion Holidays here. I'm so happy. I'd be more like, I'd love to hear from anybody out there of like, oh, you don't like Haunted Mansion Holiday? I love it for this reason. Not like, you're dead to me because you don't like Haunted Mansion Holiday.
Dislike, thumbs down.
Yeah. So I think that's been like, it's been a thing though, because it's like, in general, as Galaxy's Edge is now open in both locations, that it can be open. Like the Paris one still got like maybe a year yet of construction. I'd love to hear what our viewers and what our listeners think about Galaxy's Edge. Like, did you have a similar reaction to Jordan, where like you were there and it's great, but it doesn't quite go into it?
Especially
like,
now that there's time that it's settled down. Yeah, and you have that initial excitement over and. Galaxy's Edge gets the highest rating in every single category.
Sure.
And I can only imagine what it's going to be when that second e-ticket ride opens. And you hear that, I say that over and over in the video, that it's like, yeah, this is great, but imagine how great it's going to be when the second attraction opens. And that's the most important thing, arguably, because right now, like we just said, you pay over $100 at least to get in, and you're basically walking through, in theory, a glorified shopping mall, because all of the cool experiences that are in there are extra cost, at significantly extra cost, or at a significant extra cost. $100 for a joy, $200 for a lightsaber.
Take it even. Go small scale with it, though. Things like the fact that price raises are happening on the Kyber crystals. Price raises are happening on the Diet Coke, like the thermal detonator Diet Cokes. Even small things that you wouldn't, like, that would just make... The things that were supposed to, like, make it really immersive and make it feel like you could actually do it are starting to get to the point where it's like, well, every time I go, I can't buy this because it's so expensive.
Exactly.
And I think that's the bigger issue.
Blue milk for the little communion cup of blue milk was $8. It's like, I would like to know what green milk tastes like, but I have no intention of doing it at $8 unless they make it bigger, or no, that's it. Or unless they lower the price. Well,
because you haven't been to, incredibly, and you'll have to get to it at some point, but you haven't been to Harry Potter World at either coast. Like, you've never gone in.
And that eats me alive some nights.
It'll happen. If at some point here you'll go on that adventure. But the point is, the price is comparable. So a butterbeer does cost close to, if not the same as a blue milk or a green milk at Galaxy's Edge.
Sure.
But the difference is, at least in my opinion, it feels more satisfying. Because blue milk is, and there are people out there, and it is a good point, they'll have a butterbeer and they'll be like, oh, it's just too sweet for me. Like, I kind of like that butterscotch flavor. Mm-hmm. But as I'm drinking it, once I got close to the end of a blue milk, I was like drinking it because I knew I spent $8 on it and I had to finish drinking it. I wasn't like enjoying it as much, where the butterbeer definitely goes down easier. Yeah. And I think that, like, from a refreshing standpoint, I'd be more apt to drink something that I'm going to feel like really satisfied afterwards, instead of just drinking something for experience. And I do think that will eventually be an issue with the milk. And this is really interesting. We were just at Disneyland yesterday, and I have a few other gripes I want to talk about before we're done today. But while we were there, we passed the popcorn stand, and the last few times we've been there, no one is at it. And it has gotten to the point where I realize that it is because of the pricing, and like the reality of it is that as Galaxy's Edge goes on, the novelty and the immersion of it isn't enough to sustain certain items.
Right.
So, in particular, popcorn and blue milk and green milk will eventually fall victim to this because they're not must-have. Like, you don't.
Right.
You're going there to have it, to enjoy it, the experience of it, and it was so much fun. And I'm sure you even seemed like you were having fun while you were drinking it.
Oh,
even though your line was so much longer than we ever waited in line for.
It was massive.
But I do think that once that novelty wears off, if you're not making a must-have item, people aren't going to be as excited for it. And I do think that's going to be a problem that Galaxy's Edge is going to face, because I don't think anything except for, and you do need to have it, I know it's expensive, but you have to have it, the Ronto Wrap is so good.
It smells good every time I walk past one.
Flavor-wise, it might be my favorite Disney food item, period. It's so good.
Wow. I got to get in there.
Yeah, so that's the only item, though, in Galaxy's Edge. That, and believe it or not, some of the drink options at Ronto's Roasters, excellent. Yeah. So, like, way better than the milks. Like, for the blue milk and stuff to have its own stand is kind of injustice to the fact that those other drink items are amazing. Like the Tatooine, like, thing. Like, oh, it's so good.
And I know blue milk is this iconic Star Wars beverage, even though it's featured on screen for, like, 12 seconds of the entire saga. But butterbeer, that's like they're always going to the leaky cauldron or concrete or whatever.
Yep, no, you're right.
They're always going to that. It's always this, like, that. If you're going to have an immersive Harry Potter land, you have to have a place to get butterbeer. You have to have a place to have that experience. But Star Wars, as far as, I mean, was anyone really clamoring for blue milk?
I think people were, because they knew that was the comparable, like, drink choice. And I don't disagree with it being there. I understand it makes sense. It's not fair. Here's where it ends, and maybe this is just it. It's not fair because milk at a theme park is inherently a bad idea. And so
milk was a bad choice.
Yeah. And so even though it is fun and it's cool and it's totally in-world, and I wouldn't want it gone. I'm just saying, not. I'm just saying, I would just
be able to indulge in it more often. If it was $4, $5 even, that's much easier to wrap my head around.
Yeah, the price, you're right, the price is the issue. Because if you could go in and get one each trip, just knowing that it's something small that doesn't cost a lot that you can do at Galaxy's Edge each time you go.
Unique.
Yeah, you're right. So the solution is the price. The price is just a little too expensive.
Or enlarge the cup. Even though
but you don't need more of it.
You do get.
Yeah.
It's just sort of the sweet spot for the.
Yeah. So the size of it isn't the issue. I think the price is. You're right.
And I think one of the bigger things that could improve, there's walking into Galaxy's Edge is awesome, but it is lacking. It lacks things that are in other parts of the, like if you go into Tomorrowland, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of like kineticism going around.
Sure.
You walk in, you got the Astro Orbiter spinning around. You got in Disney World, you got the People Mover going around.
Sure.
There's stuff going around. There's stuff to look at that's really intense.
Yep.
You go into Toy Story Land. It's mostly stationary stuff, but you got the roller coaster that's going, and
yep.
It's stuff that's drawing you in, and there's just not. That's very lacking in Galaxy's Edge, and I feel like that's something that could be easily, inserted.
Mm-hmm.
Is that movement, like walking by and seeing the stormtroopers and the character interaction. That's one way to do it, but I think they could do it on such a bigger scale. I'm not sure how.
Well, I mean, I think that's a reality. It can be easily a reality. If you look at the way the land is constructed, it obviously had catwalks and stuff like that. And I think that structurally, it's actually built for things to be on the roof, like for there to be performances happening above you. And I think that is something that in the future, depending on how things end up transpiring here, that is something that can easily be added in and probably was intended. And that's how you're going to get that kinetic movement, is as long as things are happening above you, it will look like the land is constantly in motion in life. You're right, though. Right. It could benefit from something. I mean, you've seen concept art of that. There was a third attraction that was a small, little, simple animatronic sort of animal ride. And I think,
but it would have done so much.
Oh yeah, because just that little bit of movement and life in certain areas. I mean, honestly, though, I know that new ride is going to be inside of a building, but I think the crowd draw to that area is going to help it feel more balanced and kinetic. But you're right; it would be nice to have some sort of additional element going on.
I've heard drones being added, and it's like, but I mean, it is like this popular outpost.
Yeah.
Even if you had just something fly by every, I don't know. Maybe I'm asking too much.
No, we'll see.
Maybe
we'll
I'm
see
asking
what
too
happens.
much.
I think it's a great starting point. I think people were expecting a fully realized land, and it probably is becoming more and more apparent that this is a starting point to probably something grander over time. So
this will be here for a long
time.
It's going to go through a lot of changes, for sure.
So 20 years from now,
every park,
Galaxy's Edge is going to be the place to be.
That's right.
Yep.
So considering this is the starting point, what do you guys, our viewers here, what do you guys think? If there's, not that it needs to happen urgently, especially with Rise of the Resistance on the horizon, but what are some simple things that could be added that could add that element of energy, or even just what are, not that we discount anything that's happening in Galaxy's Edge, because I think me and Joey both agree it's one of the most immersive, amazing theme park achievements ever at this point, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. And what are ways that we're wrong, or what are ways that we're right, and what are you guys thinking as far as how you would improve upon or change things or tweak things, or
just like realistic ways to enhance the experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think, because obviously you never have spaceships fly over, like not real ones.
Right.
The drones is an interesting idea, but like
just
you'll never
build a
have
Death Star and have it lingering.
Yeah, but the point is that over time it'll be interesting to see how they improve it, and like Jordan said, we'd love to hear from you guys and how you guys would do it. So comment below this video. If you're listening on the podcast, we have an email you can write into happyplaceexplorers@gmail.com, and that's happyplaceexplorers, but the place in E and the E in Explorers are the same E, so it's not double E.
Pay heavy attention to the writing.
We're gonna write in here. Yeah, but feel free to write in. We love to hear from you guys. So
just general questions you'd like to see answered on the podcast. Even I've just made the best point I've ever made.
I'm sorry. What a mess.
No, I was saying any kind of even any kind of question or something you'd like to see us talk about on the podcast. Send it in. We really would love to engage with you guys in that way and have you guys be a part of the podcast. Yeah, for sure. I think it's a great point. So as we start wrapping up, I just had a few quick points. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about before we head out? I want to talk about what you want to talk about. So we were at the parks, or we were at Disneyland and California Adventure yesterday. And the first thing I want to dive into was something awesome that happened, and I will post a quick video. I think we're going to do these new Happy Place Explorers, maybe Happy Place Quick Vids. I'm trying to figure out what I want to call it, but it'll be segments in time
of a cool experience that happens in the park that's not at all related to any of the other videos.
Okay.
In this particular circumstance, yesterday we were on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, and it stopped at the lift hill in the mine thing. And it didn't just stop. It's like the ride lost power. We were on the chain lift, and all of a sudden we were going up, and then there was sort of stalled out, and then the chain caught us as we were rolling backwards.
Weird.
And all of a sudden there was nothing. The sound effects were still going, but the ride must like completely, I don't know if it's the emergency stop, but it just like stopped. And so we got the full evacuation from Big Thunder going down through like the rainbow mine area and all that stuff.
That's awesome.
Like, yeah. So we filmed the
you
whole thing.
You really get to take it in. You're going by that so fast. So you really get to... Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so we filmed the whole thing, so we'll post a video with that. But here's... obviously, I was probably rolling some B-roll of that over this. But that was kind of...
Wow, that is impressive looking. Whoa.
So that was
that thing from the Big Thunder. It looks so mountain railroady.
So that was a cool little experience that happened to us yesterday, so I'm excited for you guys to see that video. But then the other thing that happened that wasn't so exciting was we did the dessert party last night for World of Color. We've done it once before.
Okay.
Michelle and I rave about it all the time. It's like one of the most expensive dining experiences you can do at Disneyland, but it was so much fun the first time we did it. Last night, they told us, one, we waited in a very long line. Like, it took them forever to seat us. So you can start entering the dessert party area at 9:15. The show starts at 10. We didn't get seated until about 9:50 with the show starting at 10. And then they were supposed to bring our food and stuff over. And so even in that moment, we were trying to just keep our cool, but I was getting awfully frustrated. And it wasn't the cast members' fault, but it was that Disney apparently, they're trying to fit more people into that dessert party. So they're trying to get more money out of that time slot. And in doing so, they arranged the tables and they overbooked it. And to be honest, the way that they've arranged the tables now, it is not as enjoyable. It feels very cramped and very crowded, and you don't have as good a view as you used to have. So, all that said, we were very frustrated, and we didn't get, even being seated 10 minutes before the show, we still didn't, our bread was not on the table, like none of the stuff that you get for the, and it is like a
That's
$78
viewing.
It's a $78 experience per person. And so when you go with like a family, it's like a $300 event, like this like dinner. It's more expensive than going to eat at Blue Bayou. Yeah. And so we were expecting a lot, and like it was very frustrating, very underwhelming. Now, all that said, we were sort of disappointed, but it did get to the point where I complained. So I politely went up to the cast member and I was like, hey, I just want to be honest with you, like it's a very expensive experience to do this, and like we're just sort of bummed out with how it's been handled. And like we know it's not your fault in particular. This wasn't your fault for doing it. And like the team leader was so honest and like so legit. She's like, no, it's 100% our fault. We're so sorry and all that stuff. But like they comped our whole meal. The whole thing. So we ended up getting our desserts. We ended up watching the show. I love World of Color. It's my favorite nighttime show at any Disney park. I know that's a tall order, but I love it that much.
It is pretty good.
And so Disney really came through big time at the end of it. So they made good on the whole thing. But if you are going to the dinner party, be sure to get there early. Make sure you get in that line early, because we could have probably gotten there earlier and not had that frustration. I think we expected to be like, oh, it won't be that bad. But they were having issues. So that's my warning of the dinner party if you're going to do it.
In the current situation of overbooking and whatnot.
Yeah, because if you I cannot. It is expensive, but I cannot recommend the dinner party enough if you do it in a circumstance where you're planning ahead, knowing that there are some issues with seating and stuff like that. So because there were people after us, and I feel even worse for them. Yeah. Because they were so low on seats that they were probably grouping people at tables. So you were sitting with strangers. Mm-hmm. And that's cool if you paid $30 for a little reserve seating at World of Color. But to do a big expensive experience, that's not okay just to be like seated with another, like, two people and two people. Like, it's a whole thing. So anyway, that was my experience yesterday. Take that knowledge for what you've got. It's a great experience to do the dinner party. It's one of the best ways to watch World of Color. But make sure you plan ahead because you don't want to be getting there late like we did and end up with a less than perfect experience, which is what we expect from Disneyland. So no issue with the cast members. They were totally delightful. Yeah. They were totally delightful and they took care of us. So thanks to those cast members at World of Color. But
I love Disney employment.
Yeah.
Disney customer service.
Yeah. Well, they're the best.
It's magical.
It's and people say it all the time. You should never be upset with a cast member. It's all right to be upset with Disney at corporate, but you should never be upset with a cast member because they already do everything that they can at really a wage that is just they're just scraping by. So it's never a cast member's fault. It's always a bigger, grander issue of how Disney's trying to get, in this circumstance, get a little bit of extra money out of World of Color, and in turns are making a worse experience for some of their later customers.
$78 a little extra? No.
So yeah. Anyway, those are my two big things from yesterday. So that being said, if you've got nothing else, we can wrap this up.
I just wanted to say how great this beverage that I'm drinking here, 12 fluid ounces. That's 355 milliliters for those metric viewers here. Just a really sensational, just delicious beverage. There is no carbonation left on what is left in there.
Yeah,
but
it is.
Still enjoyable.
Yep.
Not going to affect my figure.
0 K.
Because it's Diet Coke. Well, I'm on my way to Disney World right now. So got a fast pass for Slinky Dog, and we're going to reap those... you get on Slinky Dog. The fast pass.
Well, have a great time. I have not been on any of that stuff yet, so I'm very excited to hear how it goes.
I'll put you in the Snapchat. I'll make sure you know.
Nice, thank you. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you coming around. We know these aren't our biggest videos, but we do like doing them because it gives you a chance to just see us. And this is how we are, just casually. Like there's no like, oh, we're going out to the parks to have an adventure. It's more of just, this is how Jordan and I have always talked about theme parks, and that's why we do the
casual conversation.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
we can't do it without you. I mean, we do it without you, but we can't do it without you.
Yes.
I said do because it's just you and me who record, but also
we were finishing so strong, and then
let's
you just
wrap it
like, let's crash it in the ground.
It was a crash. It went really deep.
Well, you ended on doo-doo, and that just was... All right.
Until next time, we'll see you
in the happy place.